What's up with the squad? Back with another video. I seen the title was going down. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button for me, please. Y'all see it in the title. Things are getting done. One thing about it, things are getting done. And we've been having this talk for weeks now. About, action. You know what I mean? When you got that action speak louder than words. We've been seeing so many things that, and I'm gonna truly say this, and I'm gonna be real with y'all. Y'all know I'm always real with y'all. How I look at things, yes, there's been talk. We've been talking about it, for a minute now, about the fraud that's going around, not only in Minnesota, but everywhere. But since we're talking about Minnesota, in this case, on what's going on, I feel like, I know for a fact that Nick Shirley is the one, that definitely shedded a brighter light, onto this, put a brighter light onto this. And for him to do that, it definitely, made, I definitely say it definitely made a lot of people, especially within the government, do what's needed, to be done, of course. Says right here, J.D. Vance announces a new nationwide assistant AG position to prosecute mass fraud, beginning in Minnesota. Check it out.
And efficiently as possible is we are creating a new assistant attorney general position who will have nationwide jurisdiction over the issue of fraud. Now, of course, that person's efforts will start and focus primarily in Minnesota, but it is going to be a nationwide effort because unfortunately, the American people have been defrauded in a very nationwide way. I want to thank a couple of people for their cooperation, in particular, and efficiently as possible.
So I do have more. I have one more video before I got to say what I got to say. Because not only, of them doing that, obviously, and announcing the new nationwide assistant AG position, but also calls for Tim Walz to immediately resign. Check it out right here.
I think Tim Walz should resign because it's very clear either that he knew about the fraud in Minneapolis, he knew about the welfare fraud, or at the very least, he looked the other way. I mean, this is not... This is not like Lex Luthor, right? This is not movie villain fraud. This is the lowest IQ possible fraud. This is, we're going to take we're going to take the absence of kids and set up a daycare center where there are no children, and we're going to call our early childhood education center the Quality Leering Center. By the way, if you can't spell learning, maybe you shouldn't be in early childhood education. But exactly. People got rich off of this. We know that there were schools who either had no enrollment or at least they overstated their enrollment. Tim Walz, either it was unbelievable incompetence or he was in on the fraud. That's one of the things we're going to get to the bottom of.
Definitely. And I definitely cannot wait. They're doing a lot. We have a lot to cover today between this video and the next video that I'll be dropping tonight. So make sure y'all stay tuned for that. You have here, Byron Donald says just leaving a hearing on Somali fraud in Minnesota and said this thing is crazy. If y'all haven't seen clips of it, it definitely is crazy. There is a lot of information that is out, and that's why J.D. Vance said that it's best for Tim Walz to resign regardless. People are also saying that, he should also be leaving in handcuffs for sure. Says the Walz administration knew about the fraud and went after whistleblowers to protect it. Check it out right here.
Back in Washington, just left the oversight hearing on Minnesota. I mean, this thing is crazy. You have the governor and his team going after whistleblowers, state employees trying to do the right thing in Minnesota to explain the fraud that was happening, to get it under control. And it looks like Governor Walz, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, Keith Ellison, not only did they know about it, they were trying to protect the fraud to continue. These fraudsters were donating campaign cash to the governor and the attorney general. The whistleblowers who were coming forward were threatened. Their jobs were threatened. Their careers were threatened. And then we find out that the fraudsters were buying property in Kenya and Turkey, sending money back to Somalia. The money going back to Somalia could potentially have fallen into the hands of Al-Shabaab, the Al-Qaeda affiliates in Somalia. Absolute crazy stuff. And the funny thing is, I don't even think it's just Minnesota. I think we just found out about it in Minnesota.
Exactly.
I think it's happening in other states too, and it may not just be the Somalian community, but other parts of the country where these programs, American people are just being defrauded. I think the bigger thing is we gotta up here. We gotta put real teeth into these spending items. If we're gonna put money into a lot of these programs, there need to be hard audit requirements, eligibility requirements. Obviously, there's criminal charges if there's wire fraud, but I think if you have elected officials who know about this stuff and we find out they know, they need to be brought up on conspiracy charges because they're defrauding the American taxpayer too. One thing I know about this town, there's always a new day and a new crazy here in Washington. I think that's why people are more frustrated than anything else, because there's no common sense here. And when you try to bring it and put into these bills, the Democrats don't want to hear it. The only time they ever want to talk about accountability is when it favors them politically, and that's really upsetting.
So let me say this. Time and time again, y'all. Time and time again. I've said I truly feel as if Minnesota is the heart of it. I feel like the Minnesota is that's that started operation. That's the headquarters. That's corporate. You know what I mean? I feel like that right there, that's right there is where everything is. That's where everything started. Just like Byron Donald said, and I've been saying it. I definitely been saying it. I feel like that's just where it started, and I feel like it's everywhere else. And that's why you're seeing multiple videos of different places of them checking in on daycare. It's like, nah, they seem a little odd, y'all. They seem a little weird. I'm telling y'all. Truly feel that way. Not only, Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, Minnesota's Attorney General, Keith Ellison, audio tape recording of him working with Somali fraudsters. I'm telling y'all. To end his career right here.
State's top cop here in Minnesota was caught in an audio recording behind closed doors, meeting with a group of soon-to-be convicted Somali fraudsters. They were asking the Attorney General for help to get more funding. Listen to this.
The only way we can protect what we have is by inserting ourselves into the political arena, putting our votes where it needs to be, but most importantly, putting our dollars in the right place and supporting candidates that will fight to protect our interests.
That's right.
You can only protect our interests when we have your back, and you don't have to worry about who's behind you.
And also this group was talking about, as you heard there, supporting his campaign. So Keith Ellison is pushing back on this. He said that he takes fraud seriously. He shared in an op-ed writing this: I took a meeting in good faith with people I didn't know, and some turned out to have done some bad things. I did nothing for them, and I took nothing from them. But some of those now convicted Somali fraudsters did donate money to Ellison's campaign, according to documents obtained by the Center for the American Experiment.
Cooked. That's how I look at it, cooked. I feel like all they're doing is putting themselves in a worse position as they talk. As they talk and they get on, I want them to. I want them to keep on talking, especially Tim Walz. I want them to keep on talking because they're not doing nothing but making it worse for themselves. They're making it worse for themselves. And y'all clearly see. Y'all clearly see. I'm telling y'all. Says here, this post by Benny Johnson, Tim Walz and AG Keith Ellison officially criminally referred to the DOJ for investigation and prosecution over mass Minnesota fraud. Y'all see it right here. Says right here, this is Anna Paulina Luna. I am writing to formally refer Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to the Department of Justice for criminal investigation. So you got it right here. The Honorable Pam Bondi. All right here. Telling y'all. Y'all go check this out. Benny Johnson posted this. I want to get my dates right, y'all. It's the 8th. It's the 8th, and 1:15. So y'all can go check that out. Good news. This is Caroline Levitt. Department of Homeland Security will continue to operate on the ground in Minnesota. Check it out right here.
The Department of Homeland Security will continue to operate on the ground in Minnesota, not only to remove criminal illegal aliens, but also to continue conducting door-to-door investigations of the rampant fraud that has taken place in the state under the failed and corrupt leadership of Democrat Governor Tim Walz. Taxpayers have been ripped off to the tune of billions of dollars in this one state alone. And that is going to end, and people are going to be held accountable. The Trump administration has activated thousands of federal agents, doubled the number of U.S. attorneys in the DOJ office in Minneapolis, and surged resources to hold fraudsters accountable and demand justice for law-abiding American taxpayers and citizens across our country.
It's lit. This is a post from Homeland Security. You got the work continues. DHS investigations in Minneapolis are accelerating as more of our brave law enforcement enter the state. Pretty lit. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know about y'all, but they out there. Definitely out there. Says see you in the streets. One thing about it though, prayers go out, not only to the independent journalists that are going out and getting this information and doing what they're doing, but also, to federal agents, law enforcement that are going out and doing these things, definitely. So not only that, you got DHS, FBI, and IRS agents are raiding fraudulent Somali and other businesses in Minneapolis. So y'all see it right here. It's continued work, y'all. Each and every day. And one thing about it, more and more will definitely be on the ground in Minnesota. It's good news. This is all good news. It's action. You have to start somewhere. You definitely have to start somewhere. And where they're starting right now in Minnesota is definitely where they need to be. And then start moving elsewhere. Definitely. I know we talked about, California. We've talked about, Ohio now. I've been seeing things in Ohio. Definitely insane. Definitely insane. So you have here, you got Ilhan Omar, goes on CNN. And that's why I said, when it comes down, to, this law enforcement, these ICE agents, because you have these individuals not only of working around with fraud, but also doing the wrong thing with inciting violence. And I truly, truly, truly do not like that whatsoever. Says here, Ilhan Omar goes on CNN, to demonize the heroes of ICE while completely leaving out the fact that it's her constituents in Minneapolis who are pretty violent, to ICE. She also left out how she's the only reason ICE is there because of the illegals. Check it out.
I know that this neighborhood, only 4 blocks away from this shooting, is where George Floyd was killed by a Minneapolis police officer. South Minneapolis, one of our reporters on the ground said that a lot of people there are really angry and also really worried about this tension turning into something more violent on the streets.
Yeah, people are angry about the lawlessness that they see with ICE agents. They are angry that there is no accountability. They are angry that U.S. citizens are being arrested, being shot at, and killed in this case. It's incredibly disheartening.
But that's the thing. This is where you go and then you put out false information. This is where you go when you put out false information. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I know a lot of people have mixed emotions about this. There's people that truly feel like, obviously, who's in the right, about the situation. And me personally, and I'm gonna say this to make this a lot of sense for a lot of people that's not understanding this, in this situation. And I do, I'm a child of God, so I do, pray, and I just pray, for the mental health, for the ICE agent, I truly pray, for both families, definitely both families, and all of that, and always think about that. You don't know, because you haven't been in that situation. Obviously the agent was trained, to do what he did. You had different people, saying different things. I even seen a clip of Stephen A. Smith saying, "Oh, he could have shot the tires." Why do that and the vehicle could still move? That's common sense. I'm just making it make sense. You don't know because you haven't been in that situation. You know what I mean? And even if you was in that situation, you don't know what you would do. You think your first instinct is to, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that? No, you're gonna think of, okay, how am I gonna protect myself? This is a vehicle coming at me. So when she's on here lying, and saying, oh, they're doing this, they're shooting, they're doing it, okay, why are all these people out in a way anyways? They have nothing to do that. Y'all got to mind y'all business, stay where y'all at, go home, and let it be. That's truly how I feel, about this situation.
That this community that has experienced so much pain is yet once again being subjected to a pain by those that are supposed to protect and serve. This is not the way that our country's laws should be carried out, and it's incredibly dangerous for us to continue to have ICE presence when
it's dangerous when you're on here and she's continuing to lie, and when she's continuing to
our community is really heartbroken over what has taken place. I don't want there to be further deaths. I don't want to see any more violence. I don't want our neighbors to feel like the laws in this country are not protecting them. And I do hope that the president wakes up from his delusion and understands that sending ICE into Minneapolis is really not protecting us. It is creating danger for all of us.
Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota.
If she was actually being real with herself, what's creating more danger is individuals protesting and being in the way of federal agents. That's how I look at it. And I'm just being honest. Real talk. Check it out.
And so it is not helpful for us to have ICE agents unlawfully just carrying out these ridiculous raids that are not resulting in any sort of arrests, that have no explanation of why they are there. They are disturbing peaceful communities that are just trying to live out their lives. And I join our mayor and our senator in asking them to get the heck out of our city.
No explanation. I feel like everybody knows why the ICE agents are there. It's truly sad when they actually know what it is, but they feed people lies, They feed people lies, and it's very, very sickening. There's a post by Benny Johnson. If I do not get this video out, I definitely apologize. Y'all would know if it cuts out and say, I appreciate y'all checking out this video. If y'all see that, then just know that this video was cut out because of the music. I'm going to try to pause. Y'all see me pause through, but it is music playing in the background. This is Benny Johnson. Check it out.
How did the poorest member of Congress become one of the richest members of Congress in just a few short years, and she wasn't even born here? Ilhan Omar is the key to unlocking everything with the Somali fraud. Ilhan Omar has said many times that she is here to represent the interests of Somalia, and that's exactly what she's done in Congress.
That's all they care about.
But she's also represented her own interests. Ilhan Omar entered Congress in 2018 as the poorest members of Congress. She had a negative net worth, negative $65,000 due to student loan and credit card and car debt. You'll find that at $174,000 a year, if she saved every single penny, she'd be worth a couple $100,000 after she paid off her debt. But that's not the case. Ilhan Omar is insanely rich. She's worth $30 million. How did that happen? Two things: massive fraud and her shady ass husband and his shady finances, inflating and ballooning exponentially Ilhan Omar's net worth. Ilhan Omar passed the Meals Act in 2022. This is an act that majorly deregulated the federal government's oversight of meals programs for children. This is the same act that was used by her friends in Minneapolis in order to defraud the federal government of nearly $500 million. Ilhan Omar even worked at the kitchen that was committing the fraud, feeding the fake children, a real problem in Minneapolis, the daycares and the food centers.
So basically, what Benny Johnson is really just, flat out saying is that Ilhan Omar, Tim Walz, all them individuals that literally are putting themselves in these positions and putting themselves, around these individuals in these restaurants and these daycares and just transportation, adult centers and healthcare centers, they all around it. They all got something to do with it.
Then you get to Tim Minette. This is Ilhan Omar's third husband. This is a shady Democrat operative that launched venture capital firms at the exact same time that Ilhan Omar and her friends were defrauding the American taxpayers with the Meals Act. Those venture capital firms were stacked with Obama and Democrat operatives, and guess what? Their valuation ballooned at the exact same time that the fraud was going on. Also, a bankrupt and fraudulent wine company is also listed on Ilhan Omar's financial disclosures as being something that is paying her something like $5 million worth of net worth, even though this company is totally fraudulent. It's not real. You call it, it's not a real number. They've been sued for fraud, by the way. The name on one of their wines, The Devil's Lie. You can't make this stuff up. So Ilhan Omar has become obscenely rich in 1 year, going from one of the poorest members of Congress to one of the richest because of a shady venture capitalist company that nobody knows where their money's coming from, at the same time that the massive Somali fraud's ongoing and being paid by a defunct wine company that doesn't even have an operable phone number. The Devil's Lie. Ilhan Omar needs to be fully investigated for this fraud and her connection to it, and we need answers. We can't run a government like this.
A big shout out to Benny Johnson. The reporting that he does, even him going out and actually doing reporting, on, different type of businesses, in these different, states or wherever he's going, I definitely appreciate, Benny for, a lot, that he's putting out, and I appreciate a lot of other, independent journalists that are putting out, different things, and I pray that, for their safety. Do have to say that don't try to focus, on just one individual, but to focus on everybody that has something to do with it. Not only Keith Ellison, Ilhan Omar, Tim Walz, but also, you have Jacob Fry, you have, these Somalians that have these businesses. You have a lot of individuals, not only there, in Minnesota, but you have them in other places as well. So definitely, do that. If that's something that obviously y'all can't do, I know there's a lot of people that aren't, willing to do that, get on camera, I know, and I'm not encouraging y'all to whatsoever, but to definitely, when it comes, not even just myself, but to others to hit the like button, for that, those videos to move and, to share these videos and do everything y'all can possibly do to get things out there like it, definitely should be. Definitely. Because I feel like this is something that needs to be everywhere. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Definitely appreciate y'all. Much love to everybody. Stay tuned for the next video dropping tonight. Catch y'all next one.